Right, now we move on to item 9, which is the main item for tonight's meeting, which is the Daedalus vision and outline strategy, which I'm going to introduce, and then we have two councillors who would like to speak on that matter. We've got Councillor Wood from Stubbington, and we've got Councillor Knight from Hillhead. Just to say a little bit first by way of introduction, clearly this is a very important item indeed. The land at Daedalus, about 80% of the site of Daedalus, which is all of it within the Fareham borough, and part of the site which is in Gosport borough as well, the site with the control tower on, has now been within Fareham Borough Council's ownership for a few months, and it is right therefore that we move forward with a vision for the site, which I think is going to be very, very exciting. And there's great interest from businesses, aviation, aerospace and marine to move on to the site to enjoy the enterprise zone, which of course means for 5 years they won't need to pay business rates, and that's worth a very significant amount on any company's bottom line. The investment that Fareham Borough Council and indeed the rest of the public sector has already made into Daedalus is considerable. It's something in the region of about £50 million. Fareham Borough Council has put money into resurface the runway, that's £1.5 million, £5.5 million for the Innovation Centre, supported by grant from the Homes and Communities Agency. On the subject of the Innovation Centre, that's now about a third let. That's after just 3 months, and our target was that within the first year we would see that a quarter let. So that really is a huge success. We do expect at the end of the year that the Innovation Centre is going to be about half let, with businesses again, aviation, aerospace and marine, starting up, some a little more mature, which of course will then, we hope, move out onto the general Daedalus site. Other investments that have been made include the infrastructure on the site. You might think that a site which belonged to the military would have been pretty well equipped when they handed it over or left the site, which they left it actually nearly 20 years ago now. No water, no gas, no electricity, obviously no broadband, no road infrastructure, so it's had to be a considerable sum of money spent both working within the site and of course the money which now the Highways Authority is spending in gaining much better access to the site. So Newgate Lane North, Newgate Lane South, planning applications in for that now, Stubbington Bypass, which we hope will get the funding for planning applications in for that now as well. So very considerable investment from many angles. So that's why we thought it was now the right time to bring forward the vision for the entire site within the council's ownership. So from something as small geographically as the control tower, and we're thinking there that we could develop a visitors centre there. There's already a footpath being provided from the control tower so people can land their planes, and I think the phrase they're using is something like park to paddle in 10 minutes, which isn't bad, straight through the gate down to the beach. But we can see facilities provided there. There's a pilot's lounge, free tea, coffee, Wi-Fi. We think we could probably work to provide a restaurant or cafe facility there, which will provide a visitor centre both for visiting pilots and their passengers, but also, of course, local people who want to go and see what's going on the airfield. So it would be accessible from the airside and from the non-airside area, from the public area. Hangars, new hangars, temporary hangars, which temporary tends to be a very, very long time at Daedalus, but we see the scope for new hangars there. There's a building which is being put up at the moment by Hampshire County Council on behalf of Fareham Borough Council, which is a spec build. Other hangars are being brought up to a better standard of repair. Service plots are being provided, and many companies are now signing up to terms to take those. So that there's a great deal going on there. We're looking over the life of the enterprise zone to this council probably investing about another £50 million into the Daedalus site. We're looking to help create around 3,500 jobs on the site. Hundreds have been created there already. just looking to move it forward. So that's a little bit of background to it. So if the executive agrees to publish the vision today, then there will be a meeting with tenants towards the end of the month, so they can be appraised of it and their questions answered. And then there'll be a special CAT meeting in Stubbington where we'll be able to present the vision to local residents, put up a display, and they'll be able to respond. And we're looking probably about October time to actually adopt the vision and then move forward from there. So that's probably about sums up my introduction. So now Councillor Wood, if you'd like to come forward and make your comments, please, and then Councillor 95.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, first of all, I need to point out, well, I need to declare a personal, but declare a personal but not a pecuniary interest, given the proximity of my parents' home to the site, which I've spoken to Paul Doran about. He confirmed that's what I need to do, so I've done that bit properly. Then I would say, before we actually pass this, there are a couple of things which do need to be changed, and I did mention it in a meeting last week with Andrew Wannell, and that is that some of the maps which actually show the outline of the site don't actually tie up. So some of the Daedalus West ones don't match where Daedalus North is going. So some of them, the little corridor round to actually the back of my own house isn't shown on some maps, it is shown on some others. So for example, number 9, it shows one example of Daedalus West, where actually if you go to page 11, it shows a different example of the shape of Daedalus West. So that's one.
Just to clarify, I have got about 4 different amendments which I'll be putting forward, and I think they're within it.
Okay. Lovely, thank you. What I'd also then say is that there's only one mention in the entire document of Somerton Bypass, and given how crucial that is to the success of the site, I do believe that whilst it may be implicit that the bypass is crucial to the development of the site, it needs to be explicit. I do think we should have greater focus within the document which says that the Somerton Bypass is vital to secure the infrastructure, to secure the access to and from the site from the M27 motorway, and without that the site will not be as appealing to potential clients and developers, because quite frankly, whilst the works on Yetna North and South are welcome, without the bypass this is not going to be as appealing as it otherwise would be, and I think that's something that's highlighted quite explicitly in here about how important that is. I also had today, as you have yourself, Chairman, an email from the Chairman of the Gilhead Residents Association, and he suggested a public viewing area being built within the airfield. I'd like to say that I totally agree with that. I think it's a very good idea. As you mentioned about the cafe, I think that's a superb idea. If we could have a raised platform outside, which would allow people to view the paint at the bottom of the runway, as well as being on the cafe, that also would be a very good idea. But overall, I'm very, very pleased to see this going forward. I thank all the officers, members and our Member of Parliament for the work that's gone into it. I'd like to request that there is the allotments which are supposed to be placed on the side of Gosport Road are relocated. I do think they are important, and a lot of people do need to, there's a lot of demand locally for that sort of thing, which I think needs to be included as well. But overall, I support it an awful lot, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Wood. Councillor, thank you.
First of all, apologies from Councillor Mann. He couldn't make it today, and he's given me quite a list of items he'd like raised. I have given a copy to anyone else, and I'm not sure whether whether Andy would like to have answers for some of them. So I'll run through them. Before I do, I would like to record the tremendous progress that Fenham Borough Council has made over this. It's now an enterprise zone. The zone is owned by the council. It's driving forward the Somerton bypass, something that's very much needed in our area. And I'm fully aware that without the enterprise zone, we'd never have the bypass proposed. So, good news. I don't think residents realise the significance of this. Anyway, I'll start off with Councillor Manley's queries. I've got a few, but they're not as many as his. First one is establish, paragraph 3 in the paper establishes a presence on the airfield. What does this mean and entail, and at what cost? Have we got an agent engaged for this purpose? That's his first question. The second one, on para 7 in the report, it says self-sustaining in the medium term, 3 years. 3 years funding has been agreed with the purchase. What are the financial implications beyond this period? Have they been assessed? Third one is paragraph. I understand that these are now to be provided off-site. The location should be close to Daedalus as possible and not in another part of the ward. Residents close to the enterprise zone should be seen to be compensated for the many changes to their local circumstances. The funds are available to provide allotments in the country park now, and we should go ahead without delay rather than a year or two. Objectives, it said that some further explanation is required to allay possible concerns, and his concern is objected to small-scale scheduled services. What does this mean? Extending the length of the runway, how will this be achieved? And his final point is objected to aeronautical ground lighting during hours of darkness. Does this mean night flights? So those are his queries. Mine simply run on. The external auditors highlighted Daedalus specifically as a risk. We need, to my mind, we need an FBC, Borough Council, panel or committee, including at least 2 local councillors, and obviously the officers concerned, to consider and discuss Daedalus, so we get the best out of the arrangement. I'm very worried as a local councillor about the future overdevelopment of the site. We've got proposals in here for the future, and to my mind that looks as if it's going to considerably extend what has already been agreed at previous planning meetings. So I think that will be a big concern opening. I mentioned the concern for allotments. That is a worry. Traditionally we had on Daedalus site there were allotments north and south on the original plans for Daedalus, and we were hoping that it would just revert back to what had been in the past. And I'd like to see a local name added to Daedalus to help identify where it is. I've suggested Solent Daedalus, so that in the area we can be proud of the airfield and see how it goes. That's about it. Thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Councillor. Clearly some of the issues which Councillor Bangry has raised, I think probably that's not answering those in writing as they're very specific. I'm not sure if anyone else will put something together on that. Responding on some of the specific points though, Councillor Wood and Stubbington Bypass would certainly have a look at that and see how we can make that more explicit. Clearly it is a key piece of infrastructure which, as we said, would not be coming along if it were not for the enterprise event. Allotments, clearly we do want those provided as close as possible to the site, but we want them on land on which allotment holders can actually grow stuff. And to put it bluntly, the land at Daedalus is pretty rubbish in terms of any agricultural quality, which is why we're talking to local farmers about getting some proper land very close to the site in which the allotments could be provided, so people actually expect what they plant to grow, which I suggest they certainly wouldn't see if they planted it on the land of Daedalus. Governance, Councillor Knight raises in terms of what he was talking about, and I think that is very appropriate, and I think once we do have a vision in place, we do need to consider very carefully how the governance will work. I'm conscious of work that I do on the county council where there are significant issues. I think of things like landfill sites and recycling facilities. There are local liaison groups which sit with interested local residents, local councillors, generally chaired by a local councillor with appropriate officers present, and that might well be a way of ensuring that local residents are very much engaged with any issues, and I'm sure there will be issues which come out of Daedalus. In terms of the development of the site, clearly that overdevelopment, as Councillor might put it, well, nothing can be done which goes beyond the consented development. The planning consents have already been given on the site. So obviously if there is any more suggestion that more is going to be done as a result of this vision eventually being approved, then clearly that will be subject to new planning applications and public consultations and a planning committee making a final decision. Fees and sort of self-sustainability of the airfield. The Homes and Communities Agency gave and he negotiated very hard to get a dowry for the site from the HCA, which runs into several £1 million, because we do have some very significant commitments there. And the revenue costs of running the airfield, the deficit of running the airfield, is covered for the first 3 years. So that is our target, that within that 3-year period, we expect to see the airfield become self-sustaining. And there will be a number of ways in which we will achieve that. Fuel sales is one very, very significant source of income, which at the moment we're not dealing with. And the landing fees, we need to make sure they are competitive, but equally that we're not sort of underselling the site. So there are two. There's the spec building which the County Council is putting up on Fairham Council's behalf. That will be a building for lease, not for sale, and the rental income from that will come in again to subsidise and cross-fund the running of the runway and the costs of running the airfield, which is how most business airfields work. You have a number of buildings which are providing a revenue stream, so then the airfield can be run in a sustainable fashion. So again, that is important. It is a risk, clearly, because we have to put in place the parameters to make sure that the site does not run at a loss. So hopefully those points are covered. Is there anything, Andy, you wanted to add? Okay, thank you. So now we'll move on to members and I'll work round. Sure.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think I'd really just like to start by saying, the actual draft vision that we're seeing today, really to congratulate the officers. I think it's absolutely a superb document. I think it's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen for a long, long time, actually, so well done on that. I think the other point I really wanted to mention was, I think you're aware that I'm the chairman of the working group for the Innovation Centre and runway, etc. So I spent quite a lot of time down on the site. That the Innovation Centre together with CMARS, there's a lot of excitement there. But certainly, as you said earlier, that it's the third foot already. But it's just good to see those sort of buildings and the actual sort of enthusiasm that that's bringing into the site as well, I think. The other encouraging thing, of course, is that the consultation exercises we're talking about. It's going up to the airfield users, someone towards the later on in this month. CAT meetings, and I guess also I think Councillor Knight mentioned what's the name going to be. Well, of course that's going to be part of the marketing sort of exercise, and I'm sure that's going to exercise a lot of people's minds actually. But really, I just think that moving forward is a very exciting prospect. It has some very good opportunities for the borough as well. So really looking forward to seeing a bit more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, I can repeat what Trevor said. I think it's a really excellent and very, very readable report. The vision to me paints an exciting image of our objectives to develop the site, to provide employment, become a centre of excellence for aviation, marine and related businesses, and to be a positive contributor financially. I think that's a very important element of the objectives here. And also to maintain and potentially enhance the traditional aviation use of the airfield. In terms of the Southampton bypass, I think, as I understand it, the business plan we put together doesn't assume the availability of the Southampton bypass. So it's a very positive business plan without that. Clearly, with provision of the Southampton bypass, provision of the funding to develop the Southampton bypass, that will make the site and the airfield even more attractive. I feel actually very enthusiastic about these proposals and I fully support the recommendations.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mrs. Lane.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I didn't get my hand up quick enough and I was going to say exactly what Trevor did. I was on a working group with Trevor and Councillor Ford and it was very interesting. We learnt a lot and I would like to thank Andy very much for all his time and effort. Thank you.
Ms. Bell.
I think it's already been said already. It is an excellent vision document and obviously thanks go to Andy and his team. I agree with Councillor Cartwright, it's one of the best consultation documents we've had for a long time And with regard to the name for this area, everyone keeps saying Daedalus. Daedalus at Fareham? I don't know, but maybe that should be part of the consultation, as we've done with Wellborn and the Honeymoon Leisure Centre. Maybe we should open that up for the residents of Fareham to vote and decide if they'd like to call it.
Okay. Okay, and another question which was raised, which popped back into my mind, I think was about the flights, what sort of flights, scheduled flights, etc. The airfield does now, very good news, have a Civil Aviation Authority licence, which means that it can carry scheduled flights. We also, more recently, have gained border control for the site, so that means the border force could be involved as well, and that's to cover the Isle of Man, Channel Islands and the rest of Europe. So that, I think, too, is good news. Again, opens up possibilities for the site. So just before we move to the recommendation then, just a few items to bring to your notice in terms of a first sort of scan through as to a few small amendments. 26 Daedalus West with principles, should be principle, simple one there. And Daedalus West, there's an image which is an old version, needs to exclude the land community benefits at Daedalus North. So that image will be replaced. In page 27, Daedalus North, fourth paragraph, so we're missing, should read, would be better provided separately. And one other there, there's a bullet point on page 34, objective 3, fourth bullet point, conscious is misspelled. So there will be a few little errors which can obviously be put right before it goes out. Anyway, the the recommendations are then that we note the vision and strategy, which is attached to Appendix A, and undertake a public consultation exercise, and give authority to the Director of Finance and Resources in following consultation with the portfolio holder of policy and resources to produce any ad hoc promotional arrangements as appropriate. So those recommendations agreed. Thank you very much.